Mr. Pav BHAMBRA here for PSB Sports. We're at the Park Plaza here today at London Riverbank. We're very happy to be joined by the trainer of the former heavyweight champion of the world, Joseph Parker. We have Kevin Barry with us. How are you doing, Kevin?
Good morning, I'm doing wonderful.
Sounds good, great to hear, Kevin. Kevin, firstly, how was the flight over to London, and how are Team Parker settling in now before the fight with Dillian White?
Oh, nice cruisy flight, you know, we slept a fair bit on the flight, hydrated up. We had an excellent training camp and got here with confidence high, and we've just been settling in since we got here. We got off the plane and went straight to the gym here at the hotel, got a good sweat up, and we've been running in the David Hayes gym doing boxing the last couple of days. Today's Friday, we're going to actually spar a couple of rounds, probably our last sparring session. All the hard work, the long rounds, the strength and conditioning work, the 10 and 12 rounds of sparring are all behind us, and now it's just freshening up and staying alert, going over the game plan, being nice and freshening Joe up, and getting ready for a big show on the 28th of July.
Absolutely, Kevin. Obviously, like you mentioned, it is a pretty big show on the 28th, but Joe's back on Sky Sports Box Office, back on the pay-per-view platform. I actually just asked Joe now in our interview, Kevin. I said to him, after a heavyweight unification fight like he had, a lot of fighters sort of might slip under the radar or take a few easy fights, but in this case, what's the reason you guys have sort of gone straight back into the deep end in a huge fight against Dillian White like this?
Look, it would have been very easy, and a lot of people would have expected us, after a fight that we just went through with Joshua, a fight that was, the biggest fight in the world this year. Joe's first loss as a professional, and for a young guy like Joe is at 26 years of age, a lot of people thought, okay, they'll take a couple of easy fights and then they'll start bringing them back, get them back in the rankings and position them again for another run. But that's not what Joseph Parker wanted. Joe sat down and spoke to the team, and he goes, look, I want a fight, I want the biggest fight I can get against the best name opponent I can get. He said, I don't want any easy fights, I don't need that. He wanted to get back to where he was as fast as he possibly could. Joe's for real, and things didn't work out for us in the Joshua fight, but he's a young man who, hey, okay, he probably didn't fight his best fight. His defense was good, his movement was good, his offense was a little dormant in that fight, but Joe will come again, and he wants nothing more than an opportunity of redemption to prove that he's a much better fighter than the guy we saw fight Anthony Joshua.
Definitely, of course. And Kevin, obviously, I'm sure with each fight and each training camp, you learn more about Joseph Parker. I mean, you guys are a very experienced team anyway, as you say. But I mean, what sort of things did you take away from the AJ fight that you're now going to put into tactic for the Dillian White fight? Well,
obviously, the game plan will be totally different in this fight than it was for the AJ fight. Joshua's a big dude, 6'6", and he's got arms like an albatross. He's got an 84-inch reach. So obviously the tactics and strategy for a fight like that are totally different from the style of a Dillian White. Look, as far as styles go, this fight is a boxing fan's fight. Look, Dillian White is an old school fighter who doesn't mind taking two to give three. He only knows one way of fighting, and that's coming forward, and he likes to let his hands go. The guy's got a big motor. He's a very strong, physical guy that is going to bring a lot of pressure to us, and who would love nothing more than to fight us in a telephone booth. But so it's very important for us in this fight that all Joe's skills are put on display, that we control the terms of the fight. If we allow Dillian to close the distance and get close to Joe, it's going to be a tough night. It's going to be a really tough night. But I think the styles of both these guys are going to make for a very entertaining, a very explosive, a very dynamic heavyweight fight. A fight where there's going to be a lot of punches thrown. Unlike the Joshua fight, both guys were a little cautious. It was a very technical fight, nowhere near the fireworks that we were thinking the fight was going to be. But this fight, Joseph Parker and Dillian White, on paper is a real barn burner.
Definitely, Kevin, for sure. And obviously, Kevin, if you look at obviously Joe's record and Dillian's record, they have that one common denominator of the loss to Anthony Joshua. But in particular, Kevin, are you looking at that fight at all with AJ to sort of draw any weaknesses you might find in Dillian's arsenal? Or is that a question of that fight was so long ago, you have to look at other sort of fights to see where you can draw backs?
Look, most definitely. Look, let's remember, when Dillian fought Joshua back in December of 2015, he was still work in progress. You know, it was a fight that was made because of the bad blood at the time between the two of them, and I think, you know, he was a little reckless. His skills were nowhere near as refined as what they are now. He's a much better fighter now. And that's why it's such a surprise for us and for I think a lot of boxing fans that Dillian White and Joseph Parker fight was ever put together, because, you know, both guys have so much to lose in this fight and both guys have so much to gain. Like, this is a very dangerous fight for Joseph Parker, but this is an extremely dangerous fight for Dillian White. You know, he stands to lose more than what we do. Here's a guy who's sitting there at #1 with the WBC, 2 with the WBO, 4 with the IBF. In our wildest dreams after the Joshua fight, we never ever thought that Dillian White would be in the ring with Joseph Parker. You know, because he just had too much to lose. But here we are, you know. So we consider ourselves extremely fortunate to be in this position, and we give Dillian a lot of respect and a lot of props for saying, yeah, I'll fight Parker. He's the sort of guy that he's really earned his stripes. You know, he's a guy who likes to engage. He's a guy who's not afraid, and we know that, and we know that. Joseph, to win this fight, Joe's going to have to beat him down, and he's going to have to put all his tools and all his skills and everything that he made his name doing, the dynamic, fast combinations that led him all the way to the world title. That sort of skill needs to be on display on Saturday the 28th if we're to be successful in this fight.
Absolutely, Kevin, and I know you just mentioned there that both fighters have got a lot to lose in this fight. As you mentioned, it's going to be an absolute barn burner. So, as Joseph's trainer, Kevin, have you put any extra pressure on your fighter during camp as a result, because of the consequences a loss might potentially have?
Well, I tell you what, we've been under pressure ever since this fight's been made, for the simple fact that from Joe flying 24 hours from New Zealand to London, staying in London, signing the fight, staying here one day, flying 10 hours to Vegas. When the fight was signed, I had 7 weeks to have Joseph ready to look across the other corner of the ring into Dillian White's eyes. It was a big ask, and I remember saying to David Higgins at the time, you're putting a lot of pressure on your fighter, Joseph Parker, and you're putting a lot of pressure on your trainer, Kevin Barry. You know, you're asking a lot in 7 weeks. And let's remember, the first week of that 7-week camp, Joe was getting over 34 hours of flying in 4 days. He was severely jet lagged. He was walking around like a zombie for the whole week, which meant that our Las Vegas training camp was only 4 weeks long before flying to London for a 2-week tapering off phase. So I remember sitting down with Dave and said, with Joe, and I said to him, Joe, hey, this is a big ask. You know, we're fighting a really tough guy. You know, a guy who's very hungry, a guy that